Go ahead.
Matt, win number 400 tonight for you. Was that a thing that was on your mind? Is that something you thought about at all coming into the game?
No, not at all. You know, someone did a story the other day, and then that's how I knew. So, you know, just trying to move, kind of, you know, through 2, you know, road games and coming here, and we have such a unbelievable following, an electric crowd, but they can't win the game for you, right? And so, like, we didn't have the energy. I thought our crowd against Rutgers was fabulous. Our students weren't here. I think it was the best crowd we've ever had without our students in terms of how into it they were. They were just so into it. And sometimes you're not that way. I'm not that way when I go to a game. Like, I don't want to sit there and go crazy and yell and scream. I want to watch it. And so, like, our support here is big time, but we can't rely on our support to win games for us. Like, we got to go out there and do it. If you play well, there's such an advantage, but you got to play well. You got to give them something to cheer about. But no, just trying to keep our focus after we've had a couple tough road games and come back home and get a win against Nebraska, who, you know, should have beat us at their place. You know, we were very, very fortunate to win in Lincoln, you know, in that game.
Playing them once in Lincoln, did you have a pretty good idea where the openings would be for Fletcher?
Yes.
In this game, and just how you guys executed that
Right.
part of it?
Yeah, you know, you don't know exactly, you know, how they'll guard everybody, but like how they defend us in the post, that's how they defend everybody. You know, that's their thing. They come on a baseline double, and it's really not going to be effective if you just kind of throw it in and practice it for 2 to 3 days. It's not going to be effective at all. Your rotations are going to be poor, but that's what they've done from day one. So in the summer and the fall, that's what they put in, and they're really good at it. They do a good job. We made a couple adjustments, and just trying to put, once you can get it out of there, you know, the guy that's the most dangerous away from everything, because that's what ends up happening the most. Not every time, but if they take your dive away, now you get a 2-on-1 on overloaded sides. So we were just trying to hold and then just get the ball out of there and then make one more pass and then shoot it or drive it at that time, or throw the ball back into the post again. But, you know, everything looks better when the ball goes in. So Fletcher's ball goes in, and so I'll go, man, you guys did a great job. Well, we were open in Lincoln too, and the ball didn't go in. And so then it's like, hey, well, what's wrong? You know, nothing's wrong. You know, things look good when the ball goes in.
Matt, I know Brian didn't play tonight, but you kind of stuck with this, you know, 10 players basically getting minutes every night. 9 guys got at least 7, 8 guys played double-digit minutes.
Yeah.
Just in terms of completeness of this team and the ability to bring it off the bench that can, you know, you don't lose a whole lot. How important is that for the success of where you are right now?
You know, it's very important, and we got to do a better job, like with our rotations and just being functional. You know, we get a lead tonight, then we sub, and the lead dwindles a little bit. We sub the guys back in, and the lead grows. We start the second half again there. And then when we sub in that second half again, you know, Tamanagi gets loose and starts to get going a little bit. But, you know, all of those guys, if you pieced them with our starters, would be way more productive. But like now, like when you sub and you do that, it's a hard mix sometimes, especially when you get all those guys together, of being functional and being able to push leads out if you've got a lead at that time. So we just got to do a better job. A lot of them, you know, it's hard to get familiar and kind of get into a game sometimes when you come off the bench. It's really an art. That's why you see a lot of guys in the NBA when you see, you know, they get it figured out how to be cold and sit there for, you know, 15, 20 real minutes and then be able to go and play and be functional. And then, like, by the time you find your way into the game, sometimes you're taken out. And that's really hard. But I like our weapons. I like our guys. I like our skill level. We just can't try to, you know, do it all right as we sub in. You know, we got a couple bad. Those guys got a couple bad calls, you know, throughout the course of the game, and that's what happens, right? You know, guys that back up get the bad fouls against them. They get some calls against them versus kind of the starters get a little bit, you know, better whistle.
Hey Matt, you've been around the game for a while. Does this team remind you of any other teams, or it's unique? I mean, watching through practice, you're halfway through the season. Is it just something that sticks out to you, maybe?
I think we could be better, you know, in terms of moving the basketball and just being cerebral. You know, we have some guys that are really good passers, you know, in Braden, Fletch, Ethan Morton. You know, Zach's done a tremendous job in being unselfish and being able to pass out of the post. So just continue to, to make that a strength and be better. We're the #1 efficient offense, in the country right now. But I think we can still grow, and I think we have more weapons than just Zach. The one thing about Zach that makes it so unique is just, you have a decision to make on what you're going to do. And it's a big decision. And it involves, he draws so many, like tonight he didn't draw a lot of fouls, but he drew 8 fouls. That's a lot of fouls, especially if 2 people get them, right? So you're fouling people out, but for him, he's had games where he's drawn more fouls than that. So, he makes it unique. But the fact that our guys are unselfish, really helps things out. But in comparison to other teams, not really, just because Zach's such a unicorn.
Coach, the offensive rebounding, especially in the first half, seemed to stabilize the offense a lot.
Right.
How were your big men able to be so effective, especially rebounding out of their zone?
Yeah, well, Mason had 2. Trey Kaufman had 2. Trey Kaufman had a couple tough plays go against him, and Zach has 7. So there's your offensive reboundings. When you take Zach away and you battle him and you fight him, sometimes you're not in great rebound position. And now, like you saw, our best offense there for about a 2-minute stretch was just missing a shot and he got the ball. And it's not intentional, but it kind of like, hey, you've played great defense, you get him to take a tough shot, 2 points or you foul him. That's frustrating. That's really, really frustrating. But that's where he's different than most big guys his size, is that he can, he can hurt you. I think he averages 6 offensive rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. And so tonight was just kind of a normal night for him rebounding.
I guess kind of going off that with Zach, he had 30 points obviously against Penn State, didn't have a shot attempt today until 15 minutes into the game. What does that say about him that he's able to kind of go back and forth between those extremes and stay engaged in the game regardless?
Yeah, well, I think the thing that pops up is when you keep seeing those people on the perimeter wide open, even though he hasn't taken a shot, he's the reason they're wide open. They're scheming against us, and now we got to be able to handle that and make the right plays. But, his ability to be unselfish when he's not getting it. Guys that normally score a lot, when they go long periods of time, when they can't get a shot up, they start itching. It's they want it. They really want it. You can kind of see it with guys, and you watch basketball and you cover it. Are you taking shots within the flow of the offense? But then when you deal with someone who scores and averages 20, and they don't have a shot for 4 or 5 minutes, they're normally going to cork a bad one up there. And he just doesn't. Now he plays, 7 feet and in, right? So his bad shot's a hook shot from 8 feet. But he doesn't. He's unselfish. And I think a big piece of that is simply, he didn't go through what everybody else went through in terms of the recruiting. He wasn't a dominant player. He didn't play in middle school. Nobody told him he was, going to be the next coming. No one told him he was going to be an All-American or have a chance to be National Player of the Year or the Big Ten MVP. That was never in his thought process. So he just listens to coaches and tries to take it in, and he works on his game. And it's that simple. He doesn't have a wall. A lot of people will have a wall between a player and a coach, and he just doesn't have that. And that's pretty unique. I think we have a lot of guys like that. But for a guy of his stature, when he's accomplished, it's pretty cool.
Mike and then Brian.
Matt, this program is now one of 11 with 1,900 all-time wins. What does that, you've been around here for so long, what does that say to you about Purdue basketball?
You're fortunate as a head coach to be a part of it, just like as a player. I always tell our guys, if they come in and fire me on Wednesday, I bet you they play the game on Saturday. And if we got to move you because you do something stupid, I bet you we play on Saturday. So it goes on with or without you. If you understand that, and that's what everybody is, in everything that you do, your impact is really after you leave. In any job, in any person in occupation, it's just when you leave, they'll be like, man, this next guy's come in and he doesn't quite do the same job as the other guy. And that's what you want to do. You want to leave it better than you found it. But Purdue's a special place. It's got great people, it's got great education, and they love basketball. I'm not saying across the board it gets this way, but they just understand if you're playing hard and you're playing together. I'm not saying every fan at Purdue understands that, but collectively they do. More than a lot of fan bases, if not all fan bases. And that's the one thing you got to be able to do. You got to play together, and you got to play the right way, and you got to play hard. And if you do that, they'll appreciate that. They love that. They understand that piece of basketball.
That's what, right.
So you yourself had made mention yesterday of the fact that Fletcher's had a couple games this season, Florida State being one, Minnesota I think being another, where he's had a lot of good looks from three early on, where if he makes a couple more, maybe the game unfolds entirely differently. Just how important was that stretch to open the game, and is it more important to make early threes in that sense?
I think it's more important to make threes against a team that we struggled against. You can't, forget that we're up 14 points in 14 minutes, and Zach misses a 5-footer, and then we go to the other end in Lincoln, and Fletch fouls a 3-point shooter and he makes it. So now instead of it being 16, it's 10, and now you got a manageable number. That's what our spurt in the second half did for us today. Is that the start of the second half? Is that we got it to 21, and they never got it to a manageable number. I think they got it down to 14 or 15, but they never got it to that point. But getting off to a good start, should help you. It doesn't always help you. Sometimes it's a kiss of death, right? You see it in the NBA a lot. You get up 15 points,
right,
and you feel like, oh, that's a kiss of death. But in college it's not as much, but it still can happen. But no, him just getting good looks, period. I always say that to those guys, especially the guys that can shoot and play like he can, is don't ever pass up good shots. Don't try to overthink things. If you get one and you've made 3 straight, take it. If you get one and you miss 3 straight, take it. Because that's who you are. You're a good player. Now, somebody who can't shoot, you don't give that advice to. So, in case you guys get your own team.
Is that the advice you got?
You die. I didn't shoot it. I found out in college if I didn't shoot it, there's no way you can take me out for missing a shot. So it's very, very much. The guys I grew up with and the people that watched me in high school, they'd be like, well, why don't you shoot it? I'd be like, I just want to stay in the game. So get the ball to Steve Scheffler. So thank you.
Is there anything else?
Thank you.
Hey, Matt.